Now, France is marking its biggest holiday with a grand military parade. On the eve of Bastille Day, French President Emmanuel Macron called for a major hike in defense spending. The annual parade is how France celebrates its democratic freedoms. In his speech to the armed forces, Macron said Europe's freedom was now facing the greatest threat since the Second World War. He called for a €6.5 billion increase in military spending in the next 2 years.
While we had planned to double the budget by 2030, we will double it by 2027. To this end, an update of the military programming law will be presented in autumn that will foresee the effort we will undertake until 2027 under my responsibility, and I am appealing to the responsibility of the nation.
For more on this, we're joined now by DW's Lisa Louis in Paris. Lisa, what prompted Macron to accelerate the timeline for boosting defense spending?
Well, as you said beforehand, he's speaking of a threat on our freedom, the biggest threat since 1945. And this latest announcement comes after the top general here in France just a few days ago said that France was Russia's main adversary in Europe and that Europe could face a Russian threat before 2030. That's apparently why Emmanuel Macron is speeding up. He wants to underline that Europe has to stand on its own feet. He's planning to increase the budget in the coming 2 years, and that should be only the beginning.
How does France's move align with other European NATO members and broader EU defense integration efforts, Lisa?
I think France is really part of a bigger picture, as you have just been saying. Emmanuel Macron, ever since he came to power in 2017, he's been talking about this so-called strategic autonomy. So Europe, that needs to be strong, needs to have an independent defense sector. France has been called by several economists I've been talking to over the past few weeks a country with a war culture, whereas other European countries have been relying on the peace dividend after 1945. France has maintained its defense sector and it wants to increase the scale of the production. So there are big companies in France that are providing different defense systems, such as planes, but these companies will also have to work together with other countries in Europe, and that's where, other countries come in, also NATO comes in. France is looking ahead, as you said, they're increasing their budget by 2027, but we're also looking ahead to 2035, eyeing that 5% target, and France is determined to increase its investment into that sector, obviously.
Now, this is all happening while Emmanuel Macron's government is struggling to pass €40 billion in budget cuts. Lisa, how realistic is a boost in defense spending given that?
Well, that's the big question, really, here. Prime Minister François Bayrou is set to lay out his plan to save €40 billion tomorrow in Parliament. He said that he doesn't want to increase taxes, but everybody here, they are scratching their heads, wondering how he will find that money. One way, obviously, would be to bring down government expenditure, but that could also trigger an economic slowdown, and that would make it even more difficult to find money in the future. Emmanuel Macron himself, he has not been given any detail how he would find the money. He just said we need this collective effort, we need to think strategically, we need to have this, defense industry and work towards that, change our mindset. But what is clear is also that Emmanuel Macron is trying to, gain some cookie points, some political cookie points here, because he's been very much in the background ever since François Bayrou has taken over, who lacks a clear majority in Parliament, who's kind of wiggling through, but also showing that he's independent from President Macron. And President Macron, he wanted to show, he is, over the past few weeks, has been coming out, taking stances on different topics to show that he is still the leader in France. And it's the same thing with the defense spending. He wants to show that France can be strong and that he is at the lead of that topic as well.
And finally, Lisa, just one question. How much public support does Emmanuel Macron enjoy now in the country for this move to increase military spending?
Well, you know, Emmanuel Macron is not very popular here in France. About a fifth of the population are in favour of him, but there is a lack of clear alternatives. No one really knows who could take the lead in 2027 during the next presidential elections, and he's kind of speculating. He can't stand again as president, you know, but he's been talking over the past few days about 2032, the next election. So that could mean he could stand again. Journalists have been asking him, are you intending to do so? And he didn't answer that question. So he's clearly looking ahead, hoping that all of this might actually boost his standing and give him another chance.
Lisa, thank you very much. That was our correspondent there in Paris, Lisa Louis.